Hey guys, this is JBH, and welcome to the first episode of Proto-Metal Monday. Now, before I get started with the episode proper, I obviously need to address a couple of things if you've been keeping up with it in my videos at all. So, it's been 2 weeks since the last Metal Monday I made. I've been very, very busy since then, and you might be looking at this going, why is there a completely new name? I'll get into that in just a second, but first, I also need to address in my last video, my Anthony Phillips review for his album Wise After the Event, I said that I was going to be coming out with a video the next day, which was Friday, and a video after that, which was the Prog Box episode, which they come out on Saturdays. Try to get them out on every Saturday. Obviously, didn't work out. Huge amount of stuff I had going on this weekend, and I just couldn't find the time. And whatever time I did have, I was just absolutely exhausted, and I didn't really, you know, I didn't really feel prepared to talk about anything at that point, so I decided to just push it back, take a weekend off, kind of take a weekend off from doing some videos. That way, I could just be refreshed for this week and be ready to make some stuff. And those videos, which will be a new series that will be starting on Friday, and then of course the next day will be the new episode of the Prog Box. That'll be this Saturday. So Friday you're getting a new show, and the next day, Saturday, you'll be getting a new episode of the Prog Box. Those will be coming out. I promise. I guarantee it. Those will be out. Okay, so with that being the case, now I can address this. So I'm starting a new series called Proto-Metal Monday, which might be weird if you're like, well, why did you abandon the old one? I haven't. So what's going to happen is every other episode of Metal Monday, or Proto Metal Monday, whatever. So last time was Metal Monday. This week is Proto Metal Monday. The next Monday I release a metal video, it will be just a regular Metal Monday. And now you're probably thinking to yourself, what's the difference? So try to make this as not convoluted as possible. A little bit harder of a task than I expected, I guess. So Metal Monday will be focused on stuff from the new wave of British heavy metal, so the 80s onward, basically. When metal kind of was reaching new heights and kind of just exploded from there on out. Proto Metal Monday will be focusing on stuff from the late 60s through the 70s. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, not all that was proto metal. You might be looking at the title of this video and be like, Black Sabbath is widely considered to be the band that started the whole entire thing. Yes, I understand that. It just helps with a naming convention. That way you know that, hey, this week I'm going to be focusing on more, heavy hard rock stuff and proto-metal stuff and early metal stuff. And then the Metal Mondays, you'll get your death metal, your thrash metal, your Nawabum, stuff like that. So that's basically the gist of it. This week it's Proto-Metal Monday, and either next Monday or whenever I get a chance to make another Metal Monday video, that will be a regular one. And so on and so forth. I hope that doesn't get too confusing. I just figured it'd be a fun way to make some more variety, and also I don't have other days within the week that I can really make videos at the moment. The only days I really have time to are Mondays and, like I said, Fridays and Saturdays, and possibly Sundays. We'll get that figured out over time. Anyway, let's actually get started with the video now. So I decided the best thing to do for a starting Proto Metal Monday video would be to talk about two albums that are extremely important from that era. And the albums that came to mind immediately when I thought about doing this topic were Rainbow Rising and Black Sabbath's Master of Reality. And, I figured the best way to start off would be with the album I started with. So I heard Master of Reality first, and then I heard Rainbow Rising. So, with that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and start off with Master of Reality. So, before I even say anything about it, there's not really much I can say about this album that hasn't been said already. Ooh, black album cover, a lot of glare. There's not a lot I can say about this album that hasn't been said already, but I'm going to try anyway. Before I say anything, this is my favorite metal album. This is my favorite metal album of all time. I haven't heard an album that's bested it in my eyes. It's just everything about this album was exactly what I wanted to hear right when I heard it. And that was about in junior year of high school. Of course, I already know who Ozzy was. I mean, everybody knows who Ozzy is. And then, you know, I started getting really super into metal in and of itself because of my dad. He showed me Metallica and, you know, basically a lot of thrash stuff. I mentioned that in the Metal Monday video a couple weeks back. And I was, you know, really turned on to the sound. Well, I had just gotten out of football at this year because I just, you know, I wasn't having fun anymore. And, you know, I decided, like, well, what am I going to do now to fill up the space? And I decided, like, to just start taking deep dives into music that I liked. And so, you know, I was like, well, where did metal come from? I kind of want to hear, where it started and everything. And then, of course, everything led me to Black Sabbath. I found out Ozzy was a singer. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then, you know, and obviously I'd heard some Black Sabbath before, but I thought it was just Ozzy stuff. I didn't know it was Black Sabbath. Again, I had no frame of reference. I wasn't a huge music nerd at this point in time. I was becoming one. And I started with Master of Reality because I just love the simplicity of the cover of it. And I was just, and it was the one where I hadn't heard any of the songs from it before. So I was really interested in hearing, you know, something I hadn't heard before. And it absolutely tore me apart when I heard it for the first time. I was blown away by Sweet Leaf's riffs. I was like, when did this come out? And, you know, before I feel like an idiot, I want to say it was, yes, 1971. It was 1971, and I just kept looking at that year being like, there's no way an album that sounds like this came out way back then, because some of these riffs on this album are, like, to me, still some of the heaviest that metal's ever gotten. And I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to kind of go track by track. Like I said, this album's kind of like, you know, Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree said that Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, he doesn't really ever need to hear that album again because it's just so ingrained in his soul. And that is this album for me in a lot of ways. Like I said, Sweet Leaf, of course, you know, it's kind of what everybody says is the start of, like, the whole stoner metal thing. And, you know, that's the weird thing about Black Sabbath. It feels like every album or, you know, certain songs on every album were kind of felt like the kickstart of a new subgenre of metal. That's just how amazing Black Sabbath is. Again, you do not need me to tell you this if you're watching this video. You've heard 1,000 other people say it. I'm just kind of echoing those things because it's all 100% true. But anyway, you know, Sweet Leaf kind of the start of stoner metal. Of course, you know, it's Ozzy's Love Letter to Marijuana. And it's, you know, the riff is absolutely insane. It's just a beautiful riff, and you know, Ozzy is just absolutely crushing it on the vocal front. And then After Forever, it was kind of like got a very Christian kind of bent to it, which, I mean, as a devout Christian myself, you know, I heard the lyrics and I was kind of like, this is very strange. I wouldn't have ever expected them to be singing about this kind of thing, but of course you know, I play it for my Christian fans, and they're kind of like, what? Like, you know, it just kind of throws them off every now and again when they hear it. But either way, yeah, After Forever is a great song, another great riff. Embryo, which is the perfect, like, little starter to what goes in, like, this little, like, I think it's a, it sounds like it's like a cello or a violin or something. It's definitely not a violin, but like a cello or something, and it sounds like Tony Iommi is playing the guitar riff kind of with the cello. It's very little mellow, kind of like somber sounding little piece. Very, very short, but it leads into Children of the Grave, which is one of the greatest thrashers that Black Sabbath ever came out with. It's just absolutely crushing song, again, for 1971. It just sounds like, if you're listening to this whole song on speakers, it sounds like the speakers are going to explode because of how this album is produced. It's so thickly produced. You know, and then it goes into Orchid, which is just a gorgeous little acoustic guitar piece that Tony Iommi plays. And then it goes into Lord of This World, which is just another just very, you know, it starts out with like this very doomy riff. And that's another thing about Black Sabbath. It's just so much of their stuff is just very doomy. You know, doom metal starts with Sabbath. It's just, there's no question. This is most metal. But, you know, Lord of This World starts up with this extremely doomy riff and then goes in, of course, to this very groovy doomy riff, because most of their songs have just a great groove in it in and of itself. You know, that's one thing I didn't really mention to begin with is, the four members of the band. You know, Ozzy's killing it on vocals. Tony Iommi, one of my greatest guitar influences. Bill Ward's drumming. Bill Ward and Geezer Butler as a rhythm section. Geezer Butler on bass. as a rhythm section is just got so much groove and jazz and like funk almost in their sound. Like it's just there's the rhythms of their band is just very swingish. Like there's just so much like it's danceable almost. Like with the way that Tony Iommi's playing like these very just disgusting riffs, super down tuned. Like I said, especially for 1971. And then you have like this really like this bouncy but still like doomy like rhythm section in the background playing along with it. That's just like, man, I never thought like, especially back then. I had heard like Rammstein and stuff like that, and like I've heard like dancey metal before, but this stuff for some reason hearing it and the way the grooves are played and everything actually gets me to want to dance to it. It's pretty insane hearing this stuff made so early. Anyway, I don't know if that was a huge tangent, but either way, it really meant something to me when I heard it. And then Solitude, which is, as the name implies, it's an extremely depressing song. The lyrics on it, my name means nothing. My name means nothing. My fortune is less. My future is shrouded in dark wilderness. Sunshine is far away. Clouds linger on. Everything I possessed, and now they are gone. It's it's very sad. It's an extremely sad song. Sabbath tended to have like a pretty somber piece on a couple of albums, or at least a slower piece, and this is probably the one that comes to mind to me out of that original Untouchable 5 album run, which I'm sure along the future of this show I'll talk more about Sabbath. I guarantee it. It's just such a it's depressing. This is the most depressing song I think I've heard from Sabbath yet. And then from that it goes into I do my best to not talk about this song for like 12 hours. Into the Void is the greatest metal song I've ever heard. I heard this song and I was so blown away from start to finish. I had to rewind it just over and over and over and over again. Like when I heard it, it's just what a closer. Like what a closer, what a song. It is a perfect song. Like, I mean, the whole album is just unreal, but Into the Void is always like, I love every other song before it, but man, when I know Solitude's about to end and Into the Void's about to start, man, I get hyped up every time like I heard it for the first time. That starting riff, that do 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 na 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 na, like it's already just like, oh man, here we go, it's about to get hyped, and then it comes into that dun 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 dun. It's just, oh my gosh, everything about the way the riffs are played. I mean, every riff on this song is perfect. I mean, this song is perfect from front to back. Everyone is playing like crazy. And, the way, just Ozzy's, the way he just flows over the song is just, oh my gosh. I can't say enough good things. Do yourself a favor. If you've never listened to Master of Reality, I think it also could just work for someone who doesn't like metal either. It's super catchy. It's an incredible listen. I would say fun listen, but Solitude is not fun. I would not call that song fun at all, but it's a great song. It's just, fun is not the word that comes to mind when you're listening to a song like that. But either way, yeah, again, can't say enough good things. Master of Reality, my favorite metal album of all time, one of the greatest albums of the 70s, and an absolute it deserves its reputation. Absolute masterpiece. So, from there, I'm going to go to another album that is considered an absolute classic. Now, it's kind of more in the hard rock vein, which is kind of why I, picked a difference here, because the Sabbath album is just pretty much a straight up, like, most of the time it's like a stoner metal or a doom metal album. Like, I don't really like consider much on it to be like hard rock or anything like that, at least not in the traditional way. And this album has quite a bit of hard rock influence on it, not least of which because, I mean, what the album is. I mentioned it in the beginning. It's, Richie Blackmore, who is obviously from Deep Purple, who I had heard at this point, obviously, not just Smoke on the Water, but I'd already gotten into some Deep Purple at this point when I heard them. And I found out, obviously, he had another band that, the first album. This is the second album from them. It was called Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, which was the name of the first album. And I found out from listening to it, I don't think I knew this prior to listening to the album, but my dad had showed me Holy Diver by Dio maybe about 2 years before I heard this, and when I heard the voice, I was like, I know who that voice is. I looked it up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is Dio. And because, I mean, I loved Holy Diver. I was like, this guy's voice is unbelievable. And I'm going to talk about Holy Diver another time, trust me. That will be on one of these two shows. But, I mean, again, this is another one where it's like, what can I even say about it that hasn't been said already? I mean, it's considered, like, by many people to be, like, the start of power metal. It's considered to be the greatest hard rock album of all time by a lot of people. I mean, it's got... Okay, you know what? I'm just going to start talking about the songs, because I don't really know how else to start with this album. I mean, it starts with Terror Woman, which is, of course, like, it caught me immediately, because I was in my infancy of getting into prog, and the thing is, when I heard... Oh, and I'm sorry, I heard this in sophomore year of high school, and I heard Rainbow Rising, actually, after I got out of high school. I'm sorry, jeez. Junior year of high school for Master of Reality. I was out of high school when I heard Rainbow Rising. So I was already dipping my toes into the prog world at this point. And when I heard the starting little keyboard part, I was like, well, this is a little bit proggier than I expected. You know, it's just this absolutely, like, wild keyboard part. And I'll get into who all plays on here towards the end of me talking about this album, because, I mean, I think everybody on this album deserves some love for sure. But, you know, Terror Woman comes in. It's got this wild keyboard start, and it's like, the more I heard it, the more I was like, man, it's really building up. Like, I'm getting really excited listening to it. And then that little guitar part fades in, and then, of course, like, the keyboard's still, like, doing this kind of wild run over it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, how is it going to sound when everything kicks in? And then Cozy Powell's drums just... It's just... Oh my gosh, like, it's so hype. Like, just right from the beginning, it's just absolutely just blasts you away from the very beginning. And it's got this, of course, it's got like that right. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It's already amazing. And then, of course, Ronnie comes in with the I don't want to go. Like, it's just, oh my gosh. Why? I mean, I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. I'm just saying, oh my gosh, over and over. That's what this album is. If you've never heard this before, and you're not knowing what to expect, and you're just like, and you're a rock fan already, it's just like, this is incredibly, this is incredible. Like, it's still, like, still when I hear it, I just get super hyped. Like I said, it's like when I listened to Into the Void for the first time. It's just a perfect intro to an album, especially one that's as heavy as this one. Sorry, I hope I'm not yelling too much and peeking the mic out. I keep looking down, and I feel like I keep getting in the red. Sorry. I'm really excited to talk about this. And then it goes right from that into Run with the Wolf, which, you know, the da 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 da. It's already starting off on a huge high note. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And then it's got this amazing guitar riff that Ritchie Blackmore is playing. I'm going, full disclosure, Ritchie Blackmore is in my top 5 greatest guitar influences, probably top 3. Like, he's you know, I heard his guitar playing, and I was like, I want to play like that. Like, that's exactly the kind of guitar playing I'm looking for. And, like, some of his greatest riffs are just all over this album, and Run with the Wolf is one of them. Terror Woman's, I mean, I'm not even going to name tracks. Every riff on this song, every riff on this album is good. Every riff that he wrote on this album is just, like, masterful riff writing. And then it goes into probably the most, like, you know, traditionally hard rock song on the album, which is Starstruck. You know, it's got a very not shuffle, like boogie-ish kind of groove to it, which is, oh my gosh, it's just so well done. It's the way I wish a lot of boogie style, like, hard rock sounded. Not that there isn't a bunch that does. I know there is at this point, but, like, it was one of the first ones I heard where I was like, man, this is how you write a riff for this kind of shuffle groove. Like, it's so well written. It's so great. And I haven't talked much about Dio's voice or his song topics, you know. Like, he's very, I mean, you know Dio. He writes very, you know, fantastical kind of songs, which is why a lot of people consider this to be like a starting point for power metal and stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of fantasy style stuff. I mean, Terror Woman, Run with the Wolf, you know, you get it. And then, you know, Do You Close Your Eyes, another great track. But, I mean, ultimately, you know where I'm going with this when it comes to side 2. 2 epics, a little over 8 minutes each. And they're both just absolutely blistering. Stargazer is, I'm pretty sure it's been covered to death by so many like rock and metal bands. It's wonderful. Like, you don't need me to tell you that the song is amazing. You don't need me to talk. I mean, really, do you need me to talk about either of these albums? Honestly, I just want to because I love them so much. Um, Stargazer. It's got like this really kind of like it's probably like it's one of the slower songs in the album tempo wise, but like the theme I kind of got when it came to both Stargazer and the Light and the Black was like in the middle of the songs, it's just a showcase for the musicians in the band. They're absolutely playing at just their peak on these songs. Stargazer starts off with Cozy Powell just absolutely destroying his drum kit, essentially. Like, again, I didn't have really frame of reference for like for a lot of drummers that aren't like the big names, like your John Bonhams and stuff like that. But like Cozy Powell belongs up there, like easily. He's just an absolutely monstrous drummer. Just destroys the kit, like I said. And then this album does not end with a whimper in any way, shape, or form. Just like Master Reality before it. It closes with just an absolute masterpiece of a song. A Light in the Black it's a different kind of song than Into the Void. It's a thrasher, if anything. It's definitely like I hear it, I'm kind of like an early thrash song. That's kind of what comes to mind when I hear it anyway. It's got a fast pace to it, and it's the same thing. About like halfway through the song, it just becomes like a showcase for the musicians to just start going freaking crazy. And Blackmore is just absolutely destroying the solos on both of these songs. Oh, it's all day. I could talk about these albums. I might not even be talking about anything. I might just be sitting there going, "Oh, this song. Oh, that song." Like I'm just kind of going off on tangents about how much I love the songs. But I keep mentioning the musicians. I'm going to talk about them for a second. I'm just going to mention them for a second. We got Jimmy Bain on bass, incredible bass player. He plays amazing bass lines on here. Richie Blackmore. I don't need to say anything else about Richie. Tony Carey. His keyboard work is unreal on this album. I mean, if you want to know how to put keyboards on a hard rock album, listen to this album. Like, again, Tony Carey, insane work on here. Ronnie James Dio, again, don't really need to talk about Dio. Everybody talks about Dio. One of the greatest voices, period, metal or otherwise. And then, of course, drums, Cozy Powell. Absolutely just stacked lineup. They killed it on this whole thing. Can you see? This is all the band members right there. Just absolutely killer stuff from front to back. And that's it, man. I got nothing left to say. These are absolutely incredible albums. Go listen to them. I kind of did this as like a, also if anybody has like wondered like, oh, what are some good albums to listen to if, you want to get into like kind of where metal came from or where, this stuff started. I mean, these are the two. To me, these are the two best starting points. And there's a few others. You could go with Deep Purple and Rock, or Machine Head by Deep Purple, or any of Black Sabbath's original run. Again, I'm going to talk more about some more of these albums over time, but these are the two that stuck out the most to me when it came to like getting into the early days of metal and heavier hard rock. And that's all. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Happy listening.